Hello everyone, my name is Jekka, and I have already survived on uninhabited islands with my Hawaiian pole spear and with one knife. But today there will be extreme survival in the rainforest under the volcano. Now already sunrise, so my survival began. Through the tropical jungle, I was heading towards the volcano, and I take the opportunity to collect all the useful things that I met on my way in my backpack. Here is an example of a bush of a medicinal plant called pandan. This plant removes toxins from the body, relieves stress, and improves the nervous system. This is a very good tea for survivalists. I cut a couple of leaves and put them in my backpack. Let's move on. I see a small bush of young ginger. I'm pulling it out by the roots. It protects from food poisoning, nausea, and vomiting. Shake the root off the ground and cut it off. Ginger leaves are very useful. Many active substances strengthen the immune system in case of diseases. I can use it in cooking or brewing aromatic tea. I pick it up and put it in my backpack. But I found the famous spiced lemongrass. It is also quite useful. Improves blood circulation, eliminates a runny nose, increases the efficiency of metabolic processes in the body. It is often used as a seasoning for a dish or as an addition to tea. Very helpful. So I'll take it with me too and add it to my tea. All these combinations will give me a good supply of energy. I shake it from the ground and put it in my backpack too. Look what I found. It's a jackpot. This is snake fruit. The snake fruit contains a large vitamin complex. For example, vitamin A, it's 5 times more than in everyone's favorite watermelon. It's also high in calories and contains a lot of carbohydrates. I pick the fruits and take them with me. You can eat it just by your walk. The closer I came to the volcano, the more climate and air temperature changed. As soon as the clouds settled, a little rain appeared on the volcano. Mosquitoes are just starting to bite me. It's time to wear my suit. Whew! I think you are very interested to know what is in my backpack. The conditions are not simple, and the set is not small. Let's see. The first one is the rope. The second, most important, is the knife. The knife is very sharp and reliable, and tin will serve me instead of a bowler hat if I catch some prey. Flint for making fire. It's much more reliable than a lighter or matchstick because it will not get damp and will not break. But it's a little trickier to use. Also an axe. And a skein of line with a small hook. In a damp forest, you need to prepare dry firewood for lighting a fire. Here is such a rotten stump inside, completely dry, and I take it. But you have to be careful. There are scorpions inside the tree, and they are quite dangerous. I will also take coniferous needles and leaves and put them in my pants pocket in this place when walking. A lot of heat is generated, and even leaves wet after rain will dry out. Again, the clouds settled on the volcano and started a little rain. While moving, I sweat a lot and lose water from the body. It needs to be somehow restored to the body, and I realize that I need to collect some fresh rainwater. But I understand, this is dangerous enough. There are a lot of harmful bacteria and organisms in rainwater, and the most effective way to neutralize it is to boil the water over a fire. During boiling, most of the pests die. The rain is over. I managed to collect some fresh water in my kettle. Now it needs to be boiled. For this, I found dry twigs. I break them. Using fluff and leaves, light a fire with a flint. I throw up the wood, and in a couple of minutes, I get a fire. Finally, I can warm up a little. There is very little water, but this is better than nothing.
No.
I put the cauldron with water on the fire. Let it boil. I'll throw in some more firewood. The water gradually boils. I will chop the harvested herbs and fruits and add them to the water. I'll make a nice herbal fruit tea. I will not keep it on the fire for a long time so that the excess water does not boil away. Ready. I will put it aside and let it cool down a little. The tea turned out to be very tasty, and most importantly, it contains a lot of vitamins. When it's cold outside and you are drinking hot fruit tea, it seems much tastier than the one at home. I regained my strength a little and went on. Moving further, I entered a very dense coniferous forest. Well, so far nothing edible has been found here. On the way, I looked for thin bamboo to make a fishing rod. But then I noticed a rotten tree on the ground and decided to check it out. Are there any edible larvae in it? I split it with a knife and saw holes. And there are tree beetles. They look like big cockroaches. I started collecting them. In the absence of food, I can cook them. If there are beetles, there must be larvae. A huge and juicy woody larva. In such larvae, there is no less protein than in chicken meat. I put the prey in my pocket and go back to the fire to cook it. The larva released all the juice and was blown away. Now it looks even less appetizing than before. Well, because of the feeling of hunger, this does not stop me at all. I sharpen the branch and make a skewer. Now I put on the maggot. Let my booty roast well. The dish is ready. I taste it. Honestly, I didn't like it. Lunch turned out no worse than breakfast. And I can move on. After the rain, the sun came out and a very beautiful rainbow appeared. I kept my way down under the volcano to the lake that formed in the Qatar volcano. On the way, I still found a thin piece of bamboo that would be the perfect rod for my primitive rod. The lower I descended from the volcano, the warmer it got. Under the rotten leaves, I was looking for some kind of bait for fishing, and with the help of a branch, I dug the ground where I found a couple of worms and a few beetles. After 40 minutes, I finally went down to the lake. At the top of the bamboo, I tied a fishing line, then tied a small hook. But this feather will be the perfect float for my primitive fishing rod. The rod is ready. Find a comfortable place. Throwing my bait into the water, waiting for a bite. After a couple of minutes, I get the first bite, and I caught just such a goldfish. The fish was small but pecked well. I put it in my backpack. And one more capture. I released a very small fish, and half an hour later I caught 3 decent fish. I took my prey and go back to the forest. By the evening it began to get colder. Therefore, to have time to prepare for an overnight stay, I need to start building a shelter from the wind now. Therefore, I take an axe in hand and get to work. My choice fell on a pine forest, namely in the place where 2 pines are next to each other. I will clear the territory and get some sticks. Found fallen branches protect against smaller ones. and I transfer them to the construction site. I got a lot of such sticks. Take out the rope. I unwind the desired part and cut it off. I tie a regular knot on one of the sticks. And at the height of my head, I tie it to a tree. The other side is the same. And now I lean the sticks on this crossbar at 45 degrees. And I tie them with the same rope. And the shelves are shorter. I braid them horizontally in a checkerboard pattern. And the frame is ready. There are bushes nearby, whose leaves I will cover my hut. I put all this in bunches and take it to my future shelter. I need a lot of such material. I begin to lay the leaves of this bush on the frame. And my shelter from the wind is ready. But don't sleep on damp ground. Let's try on a hammock. This is no longer ideal, but at least the cold from the ground will not go into the body. Now it is about 15 degrees C, and it will be even colder at night. Therefore, you need to make a good fire that will last the whole night and also cook your prey on it. I collected dry branches. I break them. The sound in the night forest is very difficult to convey in words. You can hear every blinker. First, I spread the coniferous needles and the leaves from the top, add a few small branches, and also on top of a larger branch, as a kindler, I use cotton fluff from a flint. I make a fire. It is not very easy to do this with the help of flint, but in the end everything worked out for me. The fire has flared up well and has already begun to warm up. And now you can calmly breathe out and relax a little with the understanding that I will not freeze tonight. And now I will finally do what I have been waiting for all day. I will cook my fish and eat it deliciously. After I warmed up a little, I took the fish I caught. I put it on sticks. And I fry it well over the fire. The fish is ready, and finally, I can have a snack. There is very little food. Well, in such conditions, it is already very good. The most important thing is that I had time to prepare everything, and by nightfall, he took care of a shelter for the night and his food. The fish was delicious, and it's time to go to bed and hope for a warm night without rain. In the morning, I can say that it was not cold. Sleeping in a hammock is not entirely comfortable since you are bent all night. I pick up my backpack and set off on my way. Well, I can confidently say that this survival was very interesting. I spent 24 hours in a coniferous forest at the foot of the volcano. And as you can see, food can always be obtained. The main thing is to know how to do it correctly. With the sunrise, my survival began. Well, I'll start by showing you what I have in my backpack. The first and most important thing is my Swiss knife, of course. A flint for making a fire. A very handy thing. It is not afraid of water and does not break. The third is my axe. And this time I will use a mask for spearfishing, as well as my homemade Hawaiian spear. Everything is very simple. Put on an elastic band, load the Hawaiian spear, see the fish, release it, and fire. And of course I have my mosquito suit in my backpack. I put on my backpack and set off towards the forest. Even though this is the tropics, there is even dew on the grass high in the mountains in the morning. And on my way, I come across a cocoa tree or a chocolate tree. On it, there were fruits, but they are still completely green. I need to look for ripe ones because this is a good source of energy. And here I found yellow, already ripe cocoa fruits. Now the problem is how to get them. Cocoa has unique properties. On the one hand, it increases the activity of the brain, and on the other hand, it helps the body to relax and improve sleep. Also, cocoa beans increase vitality and improve mood by stimulating the production of hormones of joy, endorphins. And live cocoa beans are considered especially useful. I'll try to get them. Take a stick first, and I tried to push this fruit to the ground. But it did not help me. I had to apply a little force. Finally, I broke one fruit and ate all the beans from it. It tastes very much like regular chocolate, but also these beans have a white sweet shell in which there is sugar. On the tree, I saw about 5 more of the same fruit. I'll knock down a couple and take them into my backpack. These fruits are high in calories, so they are a good source of energy for me. I took out a couple more fruits and put them in my backpack. Let's move on. And by the way, a very interesting fact. It was the shape of the cocoa bean that prompted the first shape of the Coca-Cola bottle at the beginning of the 20th century. On my way, I meet a bamboo grove. I want to find a good and strong piece of bamboo to make a slingshot out of it. This piece fits me perfectly. I take my knife and use a saw in it. Now it needs to be split a little to get the flat part of the bamboo. I had to change the location because of many mosquitoes. Using charcoal, I draw a shape, and using a knife and an axe, I chip off extra fragments, forming the first blank for my slingshot. Using the blades of a knife, I give it a shape. And now it is important to form a comfortable handle. Using an awl in my knife, I made markings, as well as holes in which I will install rubber traction. When you are passionate about something and busy, time just flies by. A few hours later, the handle of my slingshot was ready. I am very pleased with the result. I made a fire with the help of flint and threw my slingshot there so that moisture and resins come out of the bamboo, thereby strengthening it in one position, and the bamboo fibers become harder and stronger. Let's roast it well. The main thing is not to hold the slingshot in one place. It must be turned over all the time so that the tree does not burn. To make the pulls for this slingshot, I used an old rubber band from my Hawaiian spear. I threaded the elastic through the holes that I pierced with an awl. One side and the other side the same way. Now I will make 2 cone-shaped bamboo plugs, insert them into the hole of these elastic bands, and thus firmly fix both sides of the elastic band in the slingshot. Tighten the rubber band and you're done. Now I find exactly the middle and cut it in half with a knife. Now I insert a piece of rope inside this, and there will be a hook for the future dart so I can hunt fish. And with the help of this bamboo stick, I will show you how it works. My homemade bamboo slingshot is ready. Moving on towards my camp in the woods. This is where I want to do a little training with a slingshot and hunt for prey. First of all, I put on my malarial mosquito suit back. The costume is called Shark Extreme. In the meantime, You can remove the mosquito net so that I have better visual control because I want to practice a little with my slingshot now. I made 2 slingshot rods, one black with a rope to shoot arrows specifically for slingshot fishing. This will be my next mission. And this thrust is made with such an appearance basket, though not from leather but a backpack strap, to shoot projectiles that I find under my feet, namely small stones. It's like I'm some kind of assassin. In general, I will use this coil of rope as a target. In the middle, there is a hole. This will be our so-called bullseye. Hit. Hit. Generally flew to the side. Hit. Hit. Miss. I finished my workout. Did a great job today. And since I'm sweating, water is leaving my body. It needs to be replenished somehow. So now I'm on my way to the lake to get fresh water and collect some stones as ammunition for my slingshots. Near the water, it is much easier to find suitable stones. They are smooth and more streamlined. I will collect more of them. Then I noticed that a fish was swimming very close to me at the surface of the water. And it became very interesting to me if I could get fish with a slingshot. I charged the stone and aim. Well, almost, but it didn't hit. The fish is very nimble, and my skills are still not enough to get into it. But most importantly, I took fresh water and also collected some stones as ammunition. I returned to my forest camp. In order not to go back and forth in vain, I went on the way to the jungle to replenish my stocks of fruits and useful herbs for tea. The stone in the snake fruit is the perfect projectile in my slingshot. So I collect all the bones in my pocket. I go further, firing at everything in a row to somehow increase my level of slingshot skills. But suddenly I hear this. Do you hear the sound? Something is going on. No, friends, this is not simulated, and it didn't seem to me that there is someone here. It was a big pheasant. I did not expect such a meeting at all. I was even a little scared. The distance of the shot for me was very large and I did not hit. After I went down and most likely found its nest, and if I did not manage to catch a pheasant with a slingshot, then I will try to catch it with my photo trap. I chose a suitable tree next to this nest and hooked my photo trap in this direction. Communication check. Everything is working.
Cool. Let's move on.
Since I am in the coniferous part of the forest, I tried to find pine cones to get some nuts. But I could not find them, so I took fir cones and checked for seeds, which, by the way, are also very nutritious and edible. I shook a lot of cones, but I could not get the seeds. I move on. Since my mission today is night spearfishing in the lake that was formed in the crater of the volcano, I need to think ahead and prepare some firewood so that at night after spearfishing I can quickly and without problems warm up by the fire. Also, as usual for tinder, I will take some leaves and pine needles. I put them in my pants pocket and let them dry. But when you collect leaves from the ground with your bare hands, you must not forget that you are not at home. But these are the tropics, and there are a lot of tree scorpions here. This species is called a dwarf tree scorpion. The poison for humans is not fatal, but they are quite aggressive. They often live in a tree and due to their flatter shape can crawl into very narrow cracks where they make their ambush. I have prepared firewood for myself for the night, and now I also want to build a fire and make myself a fruit compote from the items that I managed to collect today. I will get a flint and make a fire, even in a damp forest. This is not a problem at all. After a couple of minutes, my fruit punch was ready. I also had a bite of snake fruit. Mosquitoes, of course, are sick of it. They just fly into the mouth and nose wherever they fly. Boiled snake fruit. After a little snack, I took my slingshot and went out into the open area. There were whole layers of solidified lava from the volcano. The stones are very unstable. I need to be careful. I noticed some movement in the tree and decided to make an ambush here. These were proteins, the meat of which, by the way, is very edible. See? On a branch of a squirrel. It's good that the suit is tight. It was already evening and the sun was slowly sinking below the horizon. I decided to prepare and redo it a little and strengthen my shelter from the wind. For this, I need 2 large logs, and to get them, I use my axe. Fine. I just carefully removed the upper flooring of the hut, and the main frame needs to be redone. This log needs to be placed at 45 degrees, one side into the ground, and the other side into the tree trunk, on which I will place my hammock, and on the reverse side in the same way. And the crossbar that I tied with ropes, just put on top. I put it on top of these supports, that is, the cover will put pressure on the crossbar from above and thereby close this game, and the main support will simply crash deeper into the ground. Strength test. I think it's great. This is a very simple and reliable connection. I put the top cover back in place and add some fresh twigs. Today I worked hard. I can lie down and relax for an hour, listen to the sound of nature and enjoy the moment. Restore my strength, because I still have night spear fishing in front of me. Well, it's comfortable enough. I'll tell you, I thought it would be worse than the wind. There's no rain yet either, and that's good. The fire warms at least morally raises my mood. But I won't waste time, and under the light of this fire I'll gather my gear, take a Hawaiian pole spear and try to go down to the lake to do night spear fishing with a Hawaiian pole spear in the crater of the volcano, as you asked me before. To be honest, I have no idea at all what is happening there underwater. And in general, it's bad that I do reconnaissance at night, but it will be as it will be. It's time to prepare your backpack. I'll take a mask and snorkel for spearfishing, and also take out my homemade Hawaiian pole spear. I connect it to the handle. The Hawaiian pole spear is the most primitive spear gun for hunting fish. I take everything else that I need for filming and I go through the dark forest to the lake. After 40 minutes, I was already at the lake. I was already very eager to see the night underwater world in the lake that was formed in the crater of the volcano. I put on a mask, pick up a Hawaiian pole spear, and dived under the water. To tell you that I was horrified, to say nothing, was a huge shock for me. I expected to see a completely different picture underwater. Crystal clear water like in Lake Baikal. Beautiful vegetation, but what was waiting for me here just plunged me in shock. The depth of the lake is very large. I just did not see the bottom. There were only frozen layers of lava, caves, and sunken trees. The place was interesting, but very dangerous for spearfishing. The transparency of the water was very poor, which made it very difficult to navigate underwater, especially in unfamiliar areas. But one thing pleased me. There was a lot of fish. Fish slept peacefully in secluded places, and it was not at all difficult to catch her. I even caught a few specimens with my bare hands. But not a bad-sized tilapia. But it turned out to be very nimble. I physically simply could not hunt for a long time. The water was very cold. I froze and crawled ashore. There is prey. This is the most important thing. I cleaned all the fish right away on the shore of the lake and washed it thoroughly. I urgently returned to the forest camp. I need to warm up and cook the fish. Friends, here is very cold. Honestly, if I knew what such conditions here, I would cross it off my list. I wouldn't go there to hunt at night. Firstly, it's scary. Just terribly, honestly, very scary. I thought there would be reeds, there would be a mule of some kind of grass. There are just stones, everything is lava, sharp stones of the cave. Visibility is just 20 centimeters. You swim incomprehensibly where the darkness is, and in front of you a stupidly sharp stone appears, and in it sit in the holes of the fish. This is the most terrible place where I once did spearfishing, and even more so at night. It would be more correct to do reconnaissance first during the day to understand what is under you, and then to hunt. And besides this, the water is very cold. I froze like a carpet. I ended my spearfishing because I was just shaking like that. It's very cold for me. Now I'm sitting warming up and restoring my strength, and I understand where I am. What adventure I got into? Honestly, so that someone can explain to me that this is how it will be, or at least I dived there during the day and knew that there was such a relief and such transparency of the water. I definitely wouldn't have climbed there at night, but it turned out how it turned out. In any case, there is prey. Now I'll eat 3 little things before going to bed, and I'll fry and eat the rest in the morning. Oh, I'm cold. Oh, I'm cold. The most important thing is to dry your head. 2 such fish are enough for me to have a bite to eat before going to bed. And it's good here, it's warm and warm. Cool. What's the head? Already almost dried up. No, now it's warm and comfortable. By the way, it's fresh at night, but not cold. I got warm. The prey was roasting on the fire. Do you hear sounds? And after 15 minutes, the dish was ready. Today was a very eventful day. I spent a lot of energy, but I managed to catch prey and live one more day in the forest. It's time to go to bed. In the morning, I can say that I slept very soundly. Yesterday, I was very tired. Good morning, friends. I need to get myself food for another day at any cost, because my main task is to survive. So my survival begins, and I will start by getting with a backpack what I will use today for my survival. The first is my Swiss knife, compact but very functional, of course a fire starter, more difficult to assemble than a lighter or matches, but it is reliable, does not get damp and does not break. The third is my axe. Fourth is my homemade slingshot, which I made with bamboo. Also, my very simple fishing rod from bamboo. And of course, my anti-mosquito suit is always with me.
Whew.
My morning does not start with coffee, but with a cup of warm, fruity herbal tea, which I picked myself in the jungle. In any case, it is water. Plus it warms, and thirdly, it raises a large moral set of vitamins. I don't waste time and make darts for a slingshot. When I change to a second pull with a thread, I want to go fishing with a slingshot or hunting fish with a slingshot in general. Call it whatever you like. And with this piece of rod, remember, I had a slingshot and there was a steel rod with which I sawed off my arrow and I had the rest. With the rest, I will make small darts or harpoons for my slingshot to hit the fish and use these darts to pick up fish. My multi-tool has a metal saw and a file, which I usually use to make darts for my slingshot. The forest is of course very good, but it's time to change the place of my camp. So I took my hammock out of the trees, packed it up, and put it in my backpack. I threw the backpack over his shoulders and reached towards the lake. And despite the fact that these are tropics in the forest, and even more so in the mountains, it is quite cool in the morning. But the lower I went, the higher the temperature got. Moving towards the island, more and more panoramas opened up in front of me. From the back, I saw another very high volcano that enveloped the clouds, and the rising sun illuminated all this very beautifully. On my way, I met frozen pieces of lava, and I collected the most beautiful ones. Perhaps for some of the subscribers, this will be a very good keepsake. If you support this idea, write me about it in the comments. They are all very similar, but at the same time, very different. But in any case, in my opinion, this is still some part of the story. Therefore, I will collect more of them and throw them in my pocket. The descent was not rough enough, but due to the fact that I am constantly on the move, I warmed up very quickly and even became already hot. Today, I plan to hunt this fish with a slingshot. I need to find a suitable piece of wood. This bush suits me perfectly. I take my knife out of my backpack and there is a small file on it. Despite the fact that it is small, but it is very sharp and it is quite enough to saw off the desired piece of wood. The reel for the slingshot will be somewhat reminiscent of a pistol. I put it in a backpack. I won't find a convenient place where I get to work. Again, the clouds descended on the mountains and the situation quickly changed. Found a good place to get started. I take out the blank from the backpack. From this piece of wood, I want to make a reel for my fishing slingshot. Since I don't have a 1-hour job, I'd rather put a suit under my ass. The nail file is very small, but if your hands are not crooked, then you can work with it. I cut off the extra fragments and give a preliminary shape to the future coil. The canvas is clogged, the wood is damp. Next, I will process the workpiece with a knife blade. The tree needs to be peeled. The tree is young, sharpened very easily, like a young potato. Again, there is a little rain, but it is so fresh that it is pleasant and reluctant to completely hide from it. Because in the tropics, it rains very rarely. But now they begin because firstly, the rainy season, and secondly, I'm in the mountains and the volcano behind me is not visible at all. Look, the clouds have closed. So the broadcast is raining, but it's not for long. My task is to clear the wood from foreign migrants and get to the hardwood. I cleared the green bark, and now the main task of the port is to split a part of the coil like this. On the horizon, exactly higher, well, maybe even a little higher. For this I need an axe and a knife. Who lives here? Whose holes could these be? Mice, rats, snakes? What do you think? Now with the error of the side and back just in case, I will put marks. So having previously selected the center with a knife and an axe, I need to split this tree into 2 parts. Of course it's not perfect, but it's enough. For me, the main thing is to get to a small area where I will make a depression where the slingshot dart will be placed. And so it turns out that I split this branch. Now I will cut the groove from this side and from this side, and when I connect my branch, at me will be in the center of the hole where I will insert the dart for my fishing slingshot. This event will be part of a little cut. Imagine it like this, and the back of the dart will stick out from this side. I will hold the handle and watch the dart, pull it in the slingshot, triggering the sensor. The dart will shoot, and the fishing line will be wound on top on my branch. And when I shoot, the line will fly off the same way as from the spool of a fishing reel. Friends, I appreciate your time, so I go deep into details because this process will take some time. But closer to the finished result, I came back and showed you what happened. With the help of a small chisel, I create central holes where the dart will be inserted. When you are busy with the process, time just flies unnoticed. But I have very good news for you. I finished the reel, and just like the slingshot, burned it on a fire, went down to the lake, and I'm already very eager to check it in action. The reel looks like this. But what about the slingshot that you have already seen? Only I replaced the rods on it, which are specially for a fishing dart. Well, it's time for the most popular mission. Slingshot fishing. So, I insert the dart into the reel. I fix it with my thumb. I hook the dart to the rubber traction and into battle. I found a small island of solidified lava and made my ambush. Carefully peering into the water, waiting for the fish to rise to the surface. If you take yourself quietly, then after a few seconds the fish swims out of the grass. The main thing is to accurately aim and make a shot. Everything seems to be working. But after a couple of shots, I realized that it was working, but not very stable. On slow motion frames, you can clearly see how the dart enters the water, not absolutely smoothly, and sometimes deviates from its trajectory. Damn, I gave this. The arrow got stuck in the grass and so hard. Well, at least I know that the destructive power of my slingshot is decent. Wow, almost the entire arrow went in. The procedure dart was getting dull, but thanks to the file in my knife, this could be fixed very quickly by sharpening it back. It is not easy to sit in an ambush, not moving, and as soon as you wait for a larger fish to come out smoothly, calmly, but accurately, aim and hit it. If suddenly someone doubted the lethality of this slingshot, look, the branch was pierced through and through. There were only small fish here. I decided to walk a little along the shore and look for another place. Maybe there are bigger fish there. Look what an interesting tree. I thought it was very beautiful. It would be cool to make a house in such a place. Moving on, I found a small bamboo bridge that the fishermen had made to fish in the reeds. I thought it was an interesting place to make my ambush and very carefully moved there. From time to time, fish would swim up from the grass and rise to the surface to breathe. And I took advantage of this moment, trying to get into the fish. Damn, well, this is a whole science, of course. Shooting more and shooting. Well, I think my reel will need to be finalized. I already see a lot of shortcomings. That at the time when I load here, the arrow walks inside to the left, to the right, respectively, and knocks down this trajectory during the shot. In this underwater shooting, it is very clearly visible how, after hitting the dart in the water, it strongly deviates from its trajectory. Look again. Now you understand how difficult it is to hit the fish. But I did not lose my enthusiasm and continued my training. With the Hawaiian pole spear, I also did not succeed the first time. Well, friends, enough fishing for a slingshot today. You need to restore it a little because one pull has broken. Time passed, but I never caught new prey. It was obvious that the slingshot needed to be further developed, so I decided to use my homemade primitive bamboo fishing rod in order to catch my prey. But everything is not so simple. First, you need to find bait, and for this, I need a digging stick. It is very difficult to find an earthworm in the tropics. First of all, you need to find a wet place, preferably in the shade and where there are old, dry leaves. I dug myself up some worms and some kind of beetle. That will be enough for bait. Friends, this is such a beautiful coast. And I already see such a small red fish there, which I caught with the help of a Hawaiian pole spear at night in this volcano crater. And I also saw a couple of fairly large calves, and I think that something will be needed today to be sure to catch. Let's see if my float will stand. Perfectly. I returned to the place where I used to fish with this rod, and I had a very good result. I put the worm on the hook and throw the rod into the water. Looking at the float is still that hypnosis. Looking ahead, I will say that during sleep when I closed my eyes, I still saw this float. Time passed, but for some reason, fish refused to peck. Cast after cast, and I started experimenting with depth, and here is the first bite. Come on, worm. Catch fish big and small. Why do we spit on a worm? I used to catch it like that in my childhood, and for some reason we spit on a worm. Why? What does it give? Yeah. This is the catch, friends. Well, what is the first fish? No matter what size it is, but I caught a fish. This is luck. This is success. Look what a beautiful straight goldfish. Something like our perch. Some kind of large-lipped perch, or is it some kind of tilapia, golden tilapia? In any case, this is my goldfish. Well, I'm sorry. You're small, of course, but today I have a mission to catch my own food in 24 hours. So I'm picking you up. Probably it was not in vain that I spit on a worm as a child. Having picked up the required depth, the fish pecked at almost every cast. It only remained to hook it in time. There is one more prey. I caught a little tilapia. Looked like a baby. Let's release it and let it grow up. Well, it's not serious. This is a very small fish. I'll at least sort it out. It's caught in quantity. It already makes me happy. Well, I'll release such a baby. Well, there is prey. My fishing skills did not let me down, so today I will not be hungry. Well, that's enough stuff. 7 or 8 I caught. We'll go. Cook the fish. I'll pack my fishing rod. It was already getting dark, and I remembered that yesterday, in the place where I hunted a pheasant with a slingshot, I left my photo trap, and I need to return to the forest to check if I managed to catch this pheasant in the photo. It is simply impossible to be in the forest without a suit. There are a lot of mosquitoes. Because of the clouds, the climate in the forest is very different. It immediately blew with freshness and coolness. Well, let's check the photo trap whether I managed to catch something on it or not. Your bets, as usual. Write forecasts in the comments. Well, did you catch something or not? Not far from where I picked up my photo trap, I saw squirrels running on a tree. I quickly changed the rubber rods of the slingshot and tried to catch them. What do you think in such a place a trap if hidden? Can I catch something? I aimed my photo trap at the tree where the squirrels live. The sun went below the horizon. I made a fire with my flint and cooked the caught fish. Had a tasty snack and again met the night in the forest. I'll tell you honestly, it was a very difficult day, but at the same time very interesting. As the sun rises, my survival begins. Well, I'll start by showing you what I have in my backpack. First and foremost, it is my Swiss Army knife. It is quite small but very reliable and very functional. Of course, a fire starter. It is a very handy thing, and it is not afraid of water and does not break. The third thing is my axe. And this time I will use a spearfishing mask and also my homemade Hawaiian pole spear. Hawaiian pole spear is a primitive homemade spear gun. And also a fishing line with a small hook. They will be useful in order to make a small primitive fishing rod from bamboo. And of course I have my anti-mosquito suit in my backpack. Well, I'm putting on my backpack and head to the lake. The weather is very nice today. It is sunny and warm, and nevertheless, there is still dew on the grass. But on my way, I meet a really huge spider. It's a banana spider. These spiders weave the largest webs in the world. The body size of this spider reaches 4.5 centimeters, and the size of the limbs in some individuals reaches up to 15 centimeters. Descending from the volcano to the lake, I see a small village on the horizon. And there I saw an old, almost destroyed pier. Its parts were underwater. And it seemed to me that this place is very interesting and promising in order to do my spearfishing with Hawaiian pole spear there. This is how the place where I will do the spearfishing looks like. And over there I was hunting at night, right there on that side. I'll dive in and see what's going on. Well, I put on my mask for spearfishing, take a Hawaiian pole spear in my hands, and dive into water. Let's explore this underwater world. The location looks very interesting, special, very different. But this is what intrigues me even more. As soon as I were underwater, I saw a lot of old destroyed structures on the bottom. There were concrete pillars, as well as wooden tables or some kind of pallets. Also, I must be very careful because the locals here often fish with nets, and I need to avoid them. The transparency of the water was very poor. The water was completely cloudy. Well, during the day it is much better and easier to hunt than at night. Still, at least you can navigate somehow. I immediately realized that I need to look out for fish in these wooden structures, and after a couple of dives, I already saw potential prey. Now my main task was to carefully merge underwater, not frighten away the fish under this wooden structure, and attack them with my Hawaiian pole spear. Very suddenly, the first tilapia appears in front of me. I load my Hawaiian pole spear, take aim, and hit. There is the first tilapia. I have managed to get into the fish. It is even not too small. Have a look. Good fish. In order to collect captured prey, I used just a piece of rope, which I tied around myself. After the capture, I untied it and threaded it through the fish and tied it back to my waist. I managed to catch this fish under some wood. I think it was some kind of broken table. The moment I got my first prey, my mood immediately improved. I caught my breath a little, took a breath, and dived back into the water. I looked under this wooden structure. At first, I didn't understand if it was a silhouette of a fish or some kind of bottle, but as soon as I saw the first movement, I took a shot. But the fish was faster than me. I realized that I need to look deeply into all the holes and crevices, that the fish is right there. But the transparency of the water was so bad that sometimes I suddenly hit my forehead against a tree. Hitting my head against that tree made the fish swim away. By the way, I noticed that it was much warmer to hunt during the day than at night. Looking at another flooded structure, I saw a fairly large tilapia. I loaded my sling, took aim, and took an accurate shot. By the way, friends, write your opinion in the comments. Which location for spearfishing have you liked the most? This flooded pier or lava caves? See this fish even bigger. That's better. Good fish. With this fish, the main thing is not to lose it out of your hands. Big size. There is another prey, and this fish is even bigger. I untie the rope again and put the second fish on it. It is already much more fun. I am very glad that I caught a big fish. My mood has improved a lot. I already have my prey. I need to continue my spearfishing. I take in air and dive underwater. What I have noticed is that when visibility is limited underwater, the long Hawaiian pole spear creates discomfort. Because you must move it back slightly in a charged state, so as not to frighten the fish with a sharp tip. And first, see it. And after that, direct the Hawaiian pole spear and take a shot. Therefore, it is definitely necessary to adjust the Hawaiian pole spear under such conditions. I took a closer look at these structures. Now I understood where the fish was. Well, as soon as I swam to promising places, there I was already greeted by a cloud of silt. And this meant that the fish saw me first and swam away. And here is another fish hiding under a piece of wood. I load the Hawaiian, take aim, and... But no, this fish turned out to be faster than me. And like this, it is way more convenient. I stood up with my feet, grabbed the pole with my hands and took a breath, regained my strength. and when I had a rest, I took in air and plunged back into the water. I feel like I'm tired. Well, this spearfishing was not easy at all. Nevertheless, I managed to get 2 fairly large fish. It was a tilapia. And this fish is still a delicacy. Well, my friends, I managed to catch such a fish. Look, the fish is quite large. I am very glad because this food will be enough for me for the whole day. I will change this location because the water became very cloudy. I can't see anything anymore, and I've scared all the fish away. I hit 2 fish, and 2 fish swam away. It's okay, I'll get more. Spearfishing is quite energy consuming, and despite the fact that I hunted in the water, my body loses both calories and water, and those also need to be restored. Therefore, I will draw fresh water for myself directly from the lake, and a little later, I will filter it and boil it. Most importantly, this water is fresh, but it's pretty dirty, and you cannot use it directly from the lake in any case. It is necessary to make a primitive filter for water purification, and for this I need 2 plastic bottles, in one of which I have already collected fresh water from the lake. I will need grass to use as a filtering element. In my case, I use palm bark. Palm fibers will hold large particles well. I also need cooled charcoal, which will be the main element of filtering. It will neutralize harmful organic compounds. In my case, I will use coconut charcoal, which was formed from the burning coconut shells. It is more efficient for filtering, so I'll collect more of it. Another layer for my filter will be small pebbles, which will also help retain large particles. Now I need to build a structure on which I will fix my filter. To do this, I need my axe and a couple of branches. I need 2 supporting parts and a crossbar. The structure is ready. Now I will cut the larger bottle into 2 parts, and the second part will be a vessel in which I will collect clean filtered water. Very nice bonus. I found a mango. Bugs and ants have already managed to eat it a little. Well, that doesn't stop me. I'll just cut off the bad parts, but I'll eat what is eatable. I'll benefit a lot from the vitamins. With the help of my knife, I cut out the seed and cut off the bad parts of the fruit. This fruit was not quite ripe yet, quite sour. Well, anyway, this is a portion of vitamins and a little bit of juice. Let's get back to my filter. First of all, the coal needs to be crushed. The smaller the particles of coal, the better the filtration process will be. And for this, I need the handle of my axe. I will grind the coal right in this coconut shell. There are holes on the bottom here. Crushing large elements of coal, small ones spill out through the lower opening of this coconut shell. The better I can grind this coal, the better I can filter my water. The reason coal is the most important element for water filtration is because porous structure of activated charcoal acts as a working substance and purifies water from harmful particles contained in it. It is also coal that purifies water from unpleasant odors, tastes, and colors, retains microorganisms and organic compounds. At the very bottom of the bottle, you need to place some piece of a napkin or a small cloth. Now I use fine charcoal. Just pour it from above. And now I will fix this layer with palm fibers. On top of that, I will make a second layer of coal, but I use larger elements, and again I will fix it with palm fibers. Layer 5, small pebbles. Just put them on top. And again, I fix with the help of palm fibers. In order to put my filter on the structure, I will make 2 holes with my knife. I fixed the filter on the structure, and I can start the process. As you can see, the water is very muddy. There are some green plants, as well as mud and sand. Well, before I filter the water in order to drink it, I first need to rinse the filter. I mean, drive a couple of liters of water through the filter. To rinse it a little from dust and from small particles of coal, I pour water for the first time, and as you can see, the water is black. This is the coal. The second time is much better. The water is almost clear. I pour it for the third time and see that the water is already clean. Therefore, I can filter the water and use it. Now I'm going to taste it. Doesn't smell of anything. From the outside, the water appears to be clean. But despite this, in its raw, I should not drink it. This water has to be boiled over a fire to ensure that all harmful bacteria is killed. But in any case, due to the filter, the water has become much cleaner and no bad smell. Now I have both food and water. I need to find a place to camp. I decided to return to the place where I hunted, with a slingshot and fishing with a bait. Pretty calm and comfortable place. As soon as I got back there, I immediately saw a small fish at the surface of the water. And I could not stand it. I took out my slingshot and tried to get the fish. I tried to be invisible, sneaking up on the fish like a ninja. But my accuracy is still not perfect. Need to train more. I insert the dart into the reel, fix it with my finger, hook it on the slingshot, and look out for my prey. That was not the kind of catch I was hoping for, but that was expected. Here is a small fish hiding behind bamboo, quite close to me. Maybe I can get it. While hunting with a slingshot in the bushes underwater, I saw quite large tilapia. I took my camera and merged it underwater. I wanted to see what was happening there. It was very difficult to get through the dense thickets with the camera, but in the end, I found a hole in which there were a couple of large tilapia fish. With each miss, my dart hit the rocks, getting less sharp because of it, and I had to sharpen it from time to time, right there on the spot. Very poor balance of this dart, and this makes it very difficult to shoot accurately. Using a slingshot, I again failed to catch a fish. Well, I'm not upset because I already have food and water. I need to build a fire to cook my fish. The fish is quite large, so I will need more firewood. So the first layer will be dry grass, then small branches, and then the big branches. As a kindling tinder, I still use this fruit, which has cotton in it, and in order to light it, I need a flint and a knife. I make fire very quickly and easily. With the help of these pieces of lava, I want to make a small barbecue, and I'll cook the fish that I have caught. While the fire is getting stronger, I will clean my fish. Look what a good tilapia. The total weight is more than a kilogram, that's for sure. This is a good source of protein. It's enough for me for a day. Well, if it's not enough, then I'll catch more on the bait. With the help of a saw, it is very good to clean the fish. This knife has a special tool that you can use to clean fish, but it's not as efficient. With a saw, it is much easier. But if the shell of the fish is very hard, then it is better not to do this, because you can blunt the saw, and when you need it, it will cut badly. So it's better to use everything for its intended purpose, not the way I do it. Done. I've cleaned the fish. I can cook it now. I had a very good thick smoke, and I took the opportunity to hook the fish above the fire so that it smoked a little. Well, hunting underwater during the day is much more interesting. First of all, it's not that scary. Secondly, you see what is happening underwater. You can analyze the situation. And also the place was very different. There were no these caves, there was no sharp lava. Under the water there were many wooden structures. The fish was under these structures. I saw a very big fish, but it swam away. By the time I realized where the entrance to this wooden construction was, I lowered my head there to look. The fish had already swum away, and left only muddy water. And it means that the fish swam away faster than I saw it, but it's still a very good result. I noticed that my Hawaiian pole spear is too long for spearfishing in turbid waters. The fish is very close to me, and therefore I need to move the Hawaiian pole spear back. It is very uncomfortable, because I could scare the fish with the tip before I saw it. In any case, it's a good experience, and I'm glad that I managed to catch prey. A fairly large fish is not at all the same as I caught with a bait. While my fish was being smoked, I had a crazy idea. I thought to use my mosquito suit as a trap to catch fish. That was the idea that crossed my mind. I want to make a primitive fish trap out of this mosquito suit. Well, if I close the grid like this here, insert branches inside in order to shape it, then I can make a primitive trap, just like the one I used to catch crabs. I need to leave one hole through which the fish will swim into the trap. To do this, I need 2 branches to insert them inside and thereby shape the future trap. First, I need to make a form using these branches. One like this and 2 like this. Now I need another one. I remove it from here and insert it in here. So I made a form and now I'm closing it here. I don't close it all the way to leave a hole. Through this hole, the fish will swim in. Throw some kind of bait and put this trap in the place where the fish is at the surface of the water. The creators of this suit, please forgive me after you see what I'm doing with it, but I hope it's a good idea, and it will be interesting. I lower my trap underwater. It doesn't work very well. Well, what are your bets, friends? Will it be possible to catch some fish with the help of such a primitive trap or not? Write your answer in the comments. Friends, you asked me to catch fish under this volcano in the lake that formed in the crater of this volcano. I did it. So please like this video. While I was making a primitive trap out of my mosquito suit, the fish got well smoked and the fire got good and strong. When good coals were ready, I put a couple of branches on top to make an imitation of a grid for a grill, and put my fish on top and let it grill. Very good and strong coal. Also, the stones give off heat. The fish will grill quickly. What a smell! It's hard to put into words. Too bad there isn't enough salt. While the fish is grilling, let's go and fish a little more with the bait. I used an earthworm as bait. I found a cozy place and threw my hook into the water. This time the fish were biting badly, but despite this, I managed to catch a couple of small fish. Wow, how beautiful it is. The smell is delicious, absolutely mouth-watering. I'm sure it will be very tasty. When the fish is large, it is much more pleasant to grill. Just look at this golden smoked color. Look at the dense, thick smoke. It is very good for smoking fish. Can you imagine what it will taste like? The smell is delicious. The smell of fish wafted all over the shore. I came to turn it over, and I saw that my fish was almost ready. Well, my food is ready. It's time to taste it. Well, what can I tell you, friends? Take a look. Isn't the fish grilled perfectly? But someone will always write that I cooked it badly, or that something else is wrong. But I know that everything is perfect, and it will be very tasty, very beautiful. The only problem is that there are a lot of flies here, and they do not let me relax and enjoy the moment. I'll start with the smaller fish. The skin of the fish is very smoked. It is a pity there is no salt. This is delicious. And when you caught this fish yourself and cooked it yourself and put a lot of effort into this, then the fish is much tastier. Very beautiful landscape. When you emerge from the water, well, in your hands you hold a fish. And in front of your eyes, a high volcano in the clouds. That's very beautiful. Unforgettable. Sometimes it seems that time flies very fast, and often it happens when I have a routine. And I do the same job, when the day is not eventful. But when there are a lot of interesting events and things that happen to me during the day, it seems that in one day, I live 5 ordinary days. I will have something to remember in my old age. I wish you all bon appétit. I know that while you are watching my video, you are also eating something. Good size of that fish. One was enough for me to eat, and I will leave the second fish and eat it in the evening. I will spend the night near the lake. I do not want to return to the forest. It's very dark and gloomy in there. If the flies don't bother me here, I'll stay here. I want to take a careful look around. Find a place for tonight's camp. Look how big the cacti are. It is a dangerous place. In large solidified lava flows, I found a couple of caves, and at first I thought it was the perfect place for my hammock, but bats won't leave me alone at night. Therefore, I decided to place my hammock right on the shore near the place where I was fishing with a bait. I found 2 suitable trees, took out my hammock and fixed it up with a beautiful view of the lake and the volcano. Today was a very difficult and busy day. I spent a lot of energy and strength, but nevertheless, I managed to catch a decent prey in order to live 24 hours near this lake. In my opinion, this is an ideal place for camping. It is much warmer here than it was in the forest in the mountains. I didn't want to spend the night in the forest, but I still had to return there because I left my photo trap there, near a tree with squirrels. I need to pick it up and check it out. Might have caught something. Well, in order to be able to move further in this forest, I'll have to use my anti-mosquito suit. Time flew by very quickly. The sun went below the horizon and the night fell. And I just got to the place where I hid my photo trap. Well, let's check if I managed to catch something. Managed to catch the most dangerous predator in the world, I mean human, nothing else. Picked up my photo trap and I returned to the lake shore. For an hour was sitting by the fire and fell asleep. I can tell you that these 24 hours of survival were very interesting. I spent the whole day near the lake at the foot of the volcano. And as you can see, I managed to get both food and fresh water. The main thing is to be able to navigate the situation. In the morning, I can say that I slept warmly and comfortably. And if you lie down in a hammock a little diagonally, then the position of the back will be more comfortable. I woke up on the shore of the lake, and what could be better than morning fishing with a bite? And today, I will again spend 24 hours without any food and water, and I will need to get all of this on my own. In general, I will try to get out of tricky situations to the best of my abilities, and the only task is to survive. From the very beginning of the day, at dawn, I have already felt that it was going to be a nice and sunny day. Well, I'll start by showing you what I have in my backpack. First and foremost, it is my Swiss Army knife. The second is a fire starter for making a fire. Very compact thing, but much more reliable than a lighter or matches. I will also need my spearfishing mask to survive today. And of course I have an anti-mosquito suit in my backpack. I've packed my hammock and I'm moving on, in search of new adventures. Because of the high humidity and warm climate, there is always dew on the grass in the morning. The last time I was sawing huge bamboo to make my primitive slingshot, I had one idea to make a primitive fish trap out of bamboo. A primitive trap can be a passive source adding to my food supply. This is what a primitive trap looks like. It's very simple. It's closed in the center and there's an opening on two sides. The fish just swims into the hole, and when I visually see that the fish have swum into the inside of the bamboo, I just close it and lift it. It's very simple. I'll try how it works. I'll locate it here, slightly underwater, and I'll wait. I hope a fish swims in there. Now I am moving on. On my way, I find a plant called manioc. The fruit is edible and very similar to potatoes. I hope whoever planted it here won't be too offended if I take a few fruits. But you should be aware that this root vegetable contains senile acid. For this reason, it is strictly forbidden to eat manioc raw. To eliminate the danger, it should be thoroughly prepared. The manioc root vegetable consists of 40% starch. Therefore, it is very high in calories and vitamins. And most importantly, it contains a set of micronutrients necessary for life, such as potassium, calcium, iron, zinc, selenium, and magnesium. Therefore, contributes to improving the body's immunity. These roots are visually very similar to our radishes or carrots. I'm going to pick these roots and wrap them in a banana leaf. Take them to the lake and wash them a little bit. I also won't leave a dug-up shrub just like that. I'm going to plant it back in the ground. After all, the sprouts of this shrub quickly put down new roots and produce new fruits. I just dig a hole with a stick and stick the shrub back in and fill it up tightly with earth. It is even enough just to cut one branch with a knife and stick it in the ground, and the next time it rains, it will take roots. And very soon, there will be edible fruits again. So I'm returning this plant to its place, and I'll do the same with the second shrub. Maybe one day I'll come back here and harvest a second crop. Going back to the lake, I need to wash my vegetables. In general, friends, it is clear that the slingshot needs to be refined and tested because the darts deviate very much from the supposed trajectory, and hitting the fish is almost impossible. I guess the dart balance is poor and it all needs to be worked out and fixed. But all of this takes time, and I don't have enough of it on my hands. I have only 24 hours to catch my prey, so I decided to sacrifice my fishing rod, darts, and slingshot rubber bands to make a small, compact Hawaiian pole spear. And today, I am going to that lake again to catch a fish. And you might ask me, why don't I use my old Hawaiian pole spear? The answer is simple. The visibility is very poor. The visibility is 20 centimeters, so when I use a long Hawaiian pole spear and swim closer to the fish, I scare it away with the tip. It's not really practical and pretty unproductive, so I need a short Hawaiian sling, not more than 1 meter. A quick move, I load it, and if I see a fish, I just shoot. That's why I decided to cut 1 meter off my rod and use the darts as a sharp tip. I use a rubber band from a slingshot to charge my compact pole spear. And today I have to catch some prey. So I'll need my bamboo fishing rod and darts from a fishing slingshot. Also the rubber rods from the slingshot. I measured the rod a little longer than 1 meter, and I saw it off using a saw from my Swiss Army knife. I saw off unnecessary fragments on the backside as well. Now change the saw to an awl. It works well for drilling holes in bamboo. It took me only 30 seconds to make 2 holes. Now I will need about 15 centimeters of cord. I cut it with the small scissors that are also in my knife. I thread this string through the holes I made earlier. On both sides, I need to tie 2 regular knots. On one side and on the other. Now, using a fish peeler, which is also in my knife, these knots have to be pushed inside of the rubber rod. One side and the other side. These knots will be the stops so that the rubber band will not fly off. Of course, I will need some kind of extra crimping. And the base of the Hawaiian sling is ready. I need to check it. The rubber band holds. I just put my hand in the rubber band. Pull it tight and release it at the right moment. To make the tip for my Hawaiian pole spear, I need another segment of bamboo, a little thicker in diameter. The inner holes are quite small and this piece of bamboo does not fit my Hawaiian pole spear. I need to widen it. I can do that with a saw. Time flies very fast here and I'm already hungry and thirsty. I decided to go back to my primitive trap and check it. A pleasant surprise is awaiting me there. Look friends, right in this hole, 1 fish swam into my trap. Now I'll show you closer, so you can see that it's alive. That I didn't fake it and I didn't push it in there with a stick or something. A small fish swims into a bamboo hole and stays there. Now I'm going to try to approach it quietly and catch this fish. I will try to catch fish inside this primitive trap. The most important thing is to approach the trap carefully, quietly, and smoothly, so that even if a fish notices me, it will try to hide inside and won't swim away. The first thing I need to do is try to close the entrance hole to keep the fish inside, and then I will pick the trap up and bring it ashore. Make your bets, guys, whether you think the fish is inside or not. I hope the fish is in the trap after all. Let's take a look.
Yes!
Yoo-hoo, the fish is here. That's the prey that I got in my trap. Now I'm going to put my trap back and try to catch another fish. Very simple trap. I don't need any bait. The fish just swims into the hole. I close and lift it. It's very simple. To be honest, I doubted the efficiency of this trap, but it worked. So I decided to put it there closer to the rock, where it's deeper. I can see even from here that there are bigger fish swimming there. Now I will try to place my camera there so you can see how the fish swims into my bamboo trap. I placed it with the entrance towards the bush. You guys watch it while I am finishing my Hawaiian pole spear. If you are not lazy and make about 10 of these traps, then they will catch fish, and it's not very energy consuming. Just check these traps from time to time. Also, on one of the rocks near the lake, I found this interesting fishing rig, and there are still good hooks on it. I am sure to pick them up. Maybe I'll need them later on to make a primitive fishing rod. While I finish the tip, I'll make a fire. To do this, I will need my knife and a fire starter. The first layer is dry grass, with small branches on top. Then bigger branches. I use the down as a tinder. With a fire starter and a knife, I have the fire. Cleaning fish with a saw is much more convenient and faster. It's very rare for me to have that in my life. And generally, I do not really trust freebies of any kind. But look at that! Judging by the weight, it's real gold. And it's big enough. I could be wrong, of course. But I don't think it's just jewelry, because it weighs a lot. Let's consider it a treasure. Not even a metal detector was needed. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe give it to someone. But damn, it's a nice bonus. I'm going to sharpen a little branch. I put the fish on this branch. By the time I finish the tip, the fish will be cooked. With a saw, I was able to expand the inside diameter of this bamboo. It now fits tightly to the Hawaiian pole spear. As you can see, I was able to use a knife to widen the holes in the tip, and now it fits tightly to the Hawaiian pole spear. I made a horizontal hole on the other side of the tip, so that the darts would diverge when I put them in the tip, and put a peg in the middle that would block them inside. The fish is almost ready, the tip of my Hawaiian pole spear too. There are a couple of little details left. Using a small piece of bamboo, I made a cone-shaped blade. I will hammer it between the two darts and thereby fix them inside the tip. Well, before I continue, first of all, I'm going to have a snack. The fish is ready. The tip is ready. The head is fried like chips. I remove all the small bones. The fish turned out very tasty. I'm going to use a bottle like this to cut a few bands out of it. A band from a plastic bottle is an alternative to heat shrink. If I properly wrap such a band around my product, and after processing over the fire, the band will shrink a lot and thus fix my product. I'll need a couple of these layers, wrap another one with the same band, and work it over the fire again. It is ready, and it will additionally protect my tip. When I miss it, the dart hits sharp rocks. Let me warm up the bamboo a little to level it out. I've already shown and told you several times that when heated, it releases resins. You can shape it the way you want, and after the moisture and resins are released, it becomes much stronger and tougher. It is easy to use. I put my hand in the rubber band, load the sling, swim, see a fish, aim, and shoot. It is very compact, slim and neat, and most importantly, very powerful. Well, you can place your bets. Am I going to be able to catch a big tilapia today, or will it be a small red fish again? Let's find out. Well, I'm not giving up on the slingshot. I will definitely finish it, improve it, and catch big fish with it and a fishing dart. I want to try out my Hawaiian pole spear. I saw a small fish on the surface. I tried to get closer to it quietly so I could shoot. I spent quite a lot of effort and energy, and even more water gets lost from your body. So I would need to get rehydrated. I'm going back to the jungle, and I will look for fresh water. And here is my freshwater source. It is a fallen banana palm tree, or a banana grass if you prefer to call it that, because the banana is considered to be a herb, even though it looks like a big palm tree. The banana palm contains about 80% of fresh, clean water, which I will now try to extract. For this, I will need my knife. In general, there are many methods of extracting fresh water from banana palm. I can squeeze this juice, or I can just make holes from which after some time I can collect fresh water. I, however, want to get to the white core that has a lot of fresh water in it. The core is edible, and in such a small fragment, there may be about a glass of fresh water. Fibers. You don't have to eat them. You can just chew them up and spit them out. The core has no taste or smell, it's just pure fresh water. Take note, a banana stem like this can be a good alternative when you're looking for fresh water. I'll get a couple more pieces and put them in my backpack. If I can't filter fresh water from the lake and boil it, then I use a banana palm tree stem as a source of fresh water. I put it in my backpack, put the backpack on my back, and proceed with my journey. It's getting late, so I'll be heading back to the lake. My plan tonight is to catch my prey with my new mini Hawaiian pole spear during a night snorkel in the lake that was formed in a volcano crater. After all, at night when it gets darker, the fish is much more passive and it will be a little easier to catch it. The sun has gone below the horizon and night has fallen, which means it's time for underwater hunting. I put on my mask, grab my mini Hawaiian pole spear, and plunge under the water. The lake is very deep. I couldn't see the bottom. There are layers of frozen lava, caves, and sunken trees. The place was interesting, but very dangerous for underwater hunting. The visibility was very poor. This made it very difficult to navigate underwater, especially in unfamiliar terrain, but one thing was good. There was a lot of fish. They were sleeping quietly in secluded places, and it was not difficult to catch it. The fish were much bigger in this place, and in just a couple of minutes I got my first catch. And here is not a small tilapia, but she is very fast. This time it was a little easier to hunt. At least I was already mentally prepared, and it even seemed to me that today the water was a little clearer. I scrutinized the relief of the frozen lava, in secluded places, in crevices, as well as in small caves. That's where the fish hides. I have also noticed that large tilapia is found under sunken trees as well as bamboo trunks. While swimming, I saw tilapia ranging from very small size up to 1.5 kilograms. I've noticed that near the shore, near the surface of the water, there is a small cave in which the snakehead was hiding. Took accurate aim and made a shot. I've got one more catch. I am also very surprised to see freshwater crabs in this lake. They are very small in size, so I decided not to catch them. The fish would be enough for me. I hunted for about an hour and had already caught about 8 fish. It was much more comfortable to handle a small Hawaiian pole spear underwater, and I didn't have to wait long to see the result. I am absolutely satisfied. It was one of my best underwater hunts. The longer I stayed, the more I paid attention to the size of the fish. I got a little cold and decided to go ashore. I've caught a lot of fish. This is the most important thing. All the fish I cleaned immediately on the shore of the lake and washed it well. Okay, I have to get back to the forest camp. I certainly need to get warm and cook fish. First, I need to find dry firewood. Even though it had rained a little, I found dry leaves on the banana palm. In order to make a fire, I will need my knife and a fire starter. I made a fire, and now it's time to fry some fish and cassava. I just put the root vegetable into the coals and let it bake like a potato. Finally, a well-deserved, long-awaited catch. This time, it was a little easier to be underwater for 2 reasons. Firstly, this Hawaiian pole spear is much more comfortable while spearfishing with such horrible visibility. And it was also good that I was mentally prepared for what awaited me underwater. This time, I was a little more focused on the hunt. I wasn't as worried, and there were more bamboo structures where I hunted today. And I saw a lot more fish underneath those structures. That's why I had such a good catch today. Now, the biggest fish I'm going to cook on the fire and have a good meal before I go to bed. I'll keep the rest for tomorrow's soup. I put the fish just on top of the coals and I finally feel warmer a bit, so I can lie down to rest. And here is the baked cassava. It smells good. And you can tell right away that it has a lot of starch in it. The core is very stiff. Hot. And here is the soft pulp. It's very tasty. I'll cook the second one in a soup with the fish and see how it goes. But it's really good. Just like baked potatoes when I was a kid. And here's the fish ready to go. Ribs are my favorite part of the fish. I do not really like the back because it's dry, but the ribs are much fatter. I love it. The fish turned out very tasty. Very tender and fatty meat, and tastes like carp. Very fatty fish. I take a piece of fish and my vegetable. Very fatty fish. I didn't even think freshwater fish could be that tasty. That's a well-deserved trophy because I swam there for about an hour. It was my most successful underwater hunt. I am very tired, but I had enough to eat. And it is time to go to bed. And as you can see, food can always be obtained. The main thing is to know how to do it correctly. And if this video gets 1,000 likes, then I will go back to a desert island. Therefore, if you want to see it, then write to me in the comments of Zek and go back to the uninhabited island. Share this video with your friends. Bye everyone!